So once again, this is basic training 11. It's admin training, creating and assigning schedules. So today, like I said, if you've been a part of the setup classes, this is going to look very familiar. It's pretty much just kind of like refresher training. I'm going to show you how to put in shifts, and that includes on-call shifts, and we'll go through that pretty quickly. And then after that, we're going to go through, how to build a new rotation or edit an existing one. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to actually put people on those rotations, and assign your employees to a schedule. And you can also use this tool for reassigning people to a schedule. So, maybe they're working, a day shift rotation. They're scheduled to work the day shift rotation throughout the year. But then maybe come August, they're switching to a night rotation. They're getting reassigned. I'll show you utilizing the same screens that we use to put people on a rotation. We can also reassign people, and it'll keep their overtime. If they're working the same days, it'll keep the days. We can manually tell the system, get rid of any days off that were scheduled during the reassignment, and things like that. So getting right into it. First things first, we're going to go through how to put shifts into the system. So we're going to go to the administration menu option on this blue ribbon right here. I'm going to go down to Shift Center and click on Set Up Shifts. Now, I know everyone has seen this before, but we're just going to go through it again because I do want to add an on-call shift. Actually, we already have one in here, so I don't actually need to create one, but we'll go through what this entails. So when putting in a new shift, obviously we need to fill out, everything in red that is required in order to save in the system. So now shift code, this is used, mainly for the system's purposes of identifying the shift. It's also used in some reports. We can put in up to 12 characters for the shift code. And it's pretty much just a shift abbreviation, right? Description is what everyone who's using the system will see, whether it's on the daily schedule or a roster or anything like that. So 12 characters, up to 12 characters, I should say, for the shift code. Description, I believe, is up to 25 characters, and this is where you would just spell out the name of your shift. So in this case, it's Detective On Call. And now abbreviation is a one-character code used to kind of just describe the shift at a very high level. This is used for schedule views where we're kind of limited in screen space. So, things such as a monthly schedule on the web portal where we're showing, dozens of people at once for, and 31 days out. So that, we're kind of limited in screen space, so we just use this one character abbreviation to kind of, show what the shift is. And you can reuse abbreviations. They don't have to be unique. So if you have two shifts that both have O as the abbreviation, that's fine. The system will allow that. And then after that, we need to tell the system when the shift starts and when it ends. Now, on call, you can leave set to 00 because for the most part, you're on call the whole day, right? So from midnight to, midnight pretty much. So it's a 24-hour shift. But in most cases, you're going to have actual start and end times. But on call is the one shift we can leave that set to 00 for 24 hours. And now we're going to skip right on down to this bottom section. Don't worry about any of this. We're going to skip down. We want to make sure that the active checkbox is turned on, meaning that it's active within the system. We're going to be using it. If for some reason we didn't want the shift, this specific shift to show up on a timesheet once they're created, you're running payroll, you can click this box to omit it. And this last checkbox, shift starts on current day. This is automatically checked. The only time we would maybe uncheck it is if we have a shift overlapping midnight. So to give you an example, maybe we have a night shift from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now, if your people who work the night shift say they want to take off, they're not saying they're taking, say the night shift's tonight, right? But the bulk of the shift is taking place tomorrow morning. So if we want the system to kind of count the bulk of the hours, meaning tomorrow, as when the shift starts, we can tell it that. Where this really comes into play is like requesting time off. So say I'm working a night shift tonight and it starts at 10 p.m. If you want your employees to put in for today's date to take off, meaning I'm taking off, starting at 10 p.m. today into tomorrow, and my request would go in for today, you would leave that box checked on, so it's telling the system the shift is going to count towards today. Now, if, say, your shift starts at like 11:30, right, and you're only working half an hour today, so if I'm taking off, it's going to be for tomorrow's date, you would uncheck that box for shift starts on current day, and that it'll count towards tomorrow. And then the last section, validate minimum staffing levels. We either check yes or no. This is just asking us, does this shift have a minimum amount of people that need to work, yes or no? If we check yes, that will allow us to select it on our validation shift screen. If no, it won't even show up on that list. But so in a nutshell, that's how we put in any new shifts. If we ever needed to make a change to a shift, we can just select it from the list and make our changes. The only thing we cannot change is our shift code. The shift code is grayed out. We cannot change it, but anything else we can. So if we need to adjust the times, we can do so here. So let me unmute the mics. Does anyone have any questions regarding putting in shifts or editing shifts?
No.
Okay, so forgive me, but whoever was doing the on-call shifts, putting in the on-call schedule, I would recommend doing something similar to what I have here, like an on-call shift that starts from 0 and ends at 0 for 24 hours. This way we can actually build it into the rotation. I'll do a couple of examples of rotations, which is what we're going to cover next. Or if no one else has any questions, we can move on. All right, so next we are going to go through either putting in a new rotation or editing an existing rotation. So to get to that screen, we have to go to Build Schedule, and then it's the last screen available on this menu, Update Rotations. And now it's going to bring us to this screen. Like I said, if you've sat in on the setup, you've seen this screen before. So because we already have some rotations in here, we'll cover, editing them first. So if I ever needed to edit a rotation, I can just click it, and all that information that we previously put in will show up on the right. And then, we just make whatever changes we need to, whether the pattern's different, anything like that. Now, this is important. If you are putting in rotations that maybe, pattern-wise, start and end date, they're the same, but maybe it's just for a different shift, meaning if your day rotation is the exact same thing as night rotation, but the only difference is one's for day shift, one's for night shift, you can copy this rotation, and it's very easy. So if I made any changes to this shift and I click Save without changing either code 1 or code 2, it overwrites for this particular rotation. But now, if I were to change either code 1 or code 2 or both, what happens is it's like a save as feature. So it creates a brand new rotation, and you'll see that in a second. So if I were just, right in code 1, I put squad A2, squad A2, and I could, make any adjustments here. I click save, and just give that a minute to build. What's going to happen is this initial squad A that I was editing will remain untouched. Now, it created a brand new entry for that rotation. So this is kind of helpful if you have similar rotations but with just different shifts. You can just change the shifts, click save, and as long as you change either code 1 or code 2, it will not erase the initial rotation, as you can see here. So my squad A regular rotation has remained untouched, but now my squad A2 rotation is a brand new entry in the system, and I didn't have to start from scratch. Let's go ahead and delete that one. Okay. So now putting in just, a new entry, we click new. We have to put in a code 1 and a code 2. Code 1, we're limited to 5 characters, or up to 5 characters, I should say. And a lot of people, they just kind of differentiate code 1 based on the group, right? So as we can see here, this is a squad A rotation, this is a squad B rotation. This is a records rotation, detective bureau, admin rotation. So if I just wanted to make like a supervisor rotation, I could just say, SUP for supervisor. And then in code 2, we can kind of differentiate these, meaning, this is more common if you have like a squad A day rotation and a squad A night rotation. You could put squad A as the code, and then here we could say squad A day. We can have another one, once again, SQA for code 1, and then maybe SQA night as code 2. So that's how you're making your distinctions between the rotations in code 2. And then in description, you could just, spell out the name of your rotation. I've also seen a lot of people, what they do is if you have, the same rotation, but maybe, depending on who it's for, they have different days off. So in that case, you would need to create, separate rotations based on what days they have off. So sometimes they include it in here, like, they put SSU, that means, Saturday and Sunday off, and then they build it out accordingly, and they make a new one. Maybe it's, Monday and Tuesday off, so you can do it like that. I've also seen people, if it's a Monday through Friday rotation, you can just do M through F, or a Tuesday through Saturday rotation, but you see where I'm going with this. This next part, start date, is very important. This is going to be the first working day of the rotation, meaning if it's a Monday through Friday job, rotation, even though the work week starts on a Sunday, the first working day is Monday, so it must start on the first working day of that rotation. So even if someone's rotation is off, on, the start date must be whatever that on day is. And you typically, you can do this retroactively, so meaning if you have a new hire next week, you could still build their rotation starting in January, but you're not going to put them on that rotation until, July, whatever. And then end date, well, actually, let me change this. So, okay, so even though January 1st is a Friday, the first Monday of January is the 4th, so this rotation will start on the 4th. And And then end date, we typically build it out to December 31st. 5 years, 5 to 10 years in the future. This is just how long the system will be good for, or how long the rotation will be good for in the system. So, if I build this out till, let's go to 2020, December 31st of 2020, that just means that come, the end of the year 2020, I'm going to need to re-input my rotations. Now, I wouldn't recommend, even if your admin rotation is going to be good for the remainder of time, I would still only recommend doing it, between 5 to 10 years, because if you go any longer, it could take a long time to build, because that's a lot of work on the system's end. So definitely no longer than 10 years, or else, it will take a long time to save that rotation. So we have our end date in. The next thing we need to do is put in the actual pattern. So if it's a Monday through Friday gig, that's simple. We're going to say we're working 5 days starting Monday, so that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we're off 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. And then we just need to tell the system what shift it's tied to. We can do it for 2 shifts at once. So if you have a person who works, just to give you an example, say like in a township, if they were to work maybe court in the morning and then clerk in the afternoon, you could say shift 1, court, shift 2, clerk. If it's only one shift, you just select it in shift 1. I'll just say control day. And then if it was, kind of like a Pitman schedule where, the rotation's different, then you would just click on the next line below and you see these values pop up, and you just put in the next part of that rotation. So what the system does is it goes through, all right, 5 on, 2 off, goes to the next one, whatever it is. If it's, Monday through Friday, you only need 1 line, because what's going to happen is once it reaches the end of this rotation, it just cycles back to the beginning. So if I had 5 different lines of pattern down here, it's going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go back up to 1, 2, then, and just keep cycling itself, hence the rotation. Now, before we actually save it, we can use this View Sample button up here to kind of confirm it's showing the way we need it to. But this was a pretty straightforward rotation, just Monday through Friday. So I can see here, it's always Monday through Friday, always Monday through Friday. But if you have a more complex rotation, this is definitely a helpful tool to use to confirm that, the days are lining up, people are going to be working the correct days and have the correct days off throughout the year. Once you're done with that and you're good to go, you just click Save. Let it, do its thing and save the rotation. Once it's done, you will see a pop-up that says Save and Build Finished. You click OK, and your rotation is in the system. Now, to the person with the on-call rotation, this is where it gets, it requires a little bit more work. So we have a detective bureau rotation already in here, but maybe I want to include that on-call rotation or on-call shift into my rotation. And so if you have 4 people, kind of splitting the on-call shift, you need 4 different, rotations. And if they're detectives, so in my example, we'll say I have 4 detectives that kind of cycle being on call each week. So once again, I can leave my code DB1, and I could say DB OC for on-call 1. This means that this rotation is going to be for the person who's on call the first week of the month. And then in my description, I could just say DB on call 1. Now, say my DBs work Monday through Friday. That's fine. But, say the work week starts on a Sunday, they're going to be on call. So in my example, what I'm going to need to do is the start date is going to be Sunday. right, so now they're on call Sunday, but they don't work any other kind of shift. So what I could say is 1 work day, off 0, because after that Sunday they're going to work their regular shift on Monday. So in shift 1, I could say detective on call. And now we're going to go to the next line. We're going to say 5 on, 0 off. We're going to put them on their regular shift. So that's Monday through Friday they're working the detective shift. And then shift 2 is on call. They're also going to be on call during this. So right now what we're looking at is, because it's starting on Sunday, no days off, they're working on call. Monday through Friday, they're on call as well as working their shift. And now we're going to say 1 day on, 1 day off, just on call. So that's saying Saturday they're on call and then Sunday they're off, meaning that it goes to the next person. So this is just for the first week. These 3 lines are for just the first week. And now I could say 5 on, 2 off. Now because we're rotating between 4 people, we need to give it the next 3 weeks worth of shifts. So this is week 2. Week 3. Week 4. Now, you notice that I'm not doing 5 on, 2 off anymore, because come week 4, he's only going to be off on Saturday. That following Sunday, he's going to be on call. So this is good for 28 days, and if we count up these numbers, we can confirm that. So that's 6, 11, 13, 18, 20, 22, 27, 28. Perfect. 7 days, 4 weeks, that's 28 days. And now if I click View Sample, so he's on call the first week of January, and then that's it. And then starting that the 5th week, which is when the rotation kind of kicks over, on call again. Something got messed up here, and we can check this. So Sunday on call, Monday through Friday detective on call, Saturday on call, Sunday off, Monday through Friday detective, Monday through Friday detective, Monday through Friday detective, 1 off, and it goes back to on call. Just for the sake of time, let me unmute the mic. So for whoever had that on-call shift built into their rotation, do you understand how to, kind of do it?
Yes.
And like I said, if you're rotating between 4 people, you're going to need to do this again, except on-call 2. And then instead of it being the first week with the on-call shifts, you would do 5 on, 1 off, whatever shift they're working, and then do a cycle like this, including that on-call shift. And then the following 2 weeks would be regular 5 on, 2 off, or however you do it. And you would need to repeat that, except, so on-call 1, on-call is in the first row pattern, the first part of the pattern. On-call 2 would be the second part. 3 would be the third part. 4 would be the fourth part. So are you good with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So as far as putting in rotations in general, does anyone have any questions? Okay, well, if no one has any questions, we can move right along into putting people on these rotations. So, we have the shifts, we have the rotations. Now it's time to put people on those rotations so they're showing up on the schedule. To do this, we're going to stay in Build Schedule. And now we're going to click on Add Employees to Existing Rotations. So just taking this from the perspective of, a new hire. The top section right here is asking, for what date range do we want to put someone on this rotation? So even though, say the rotation starts January 4th, we can just say, oops, that's July. We could just say January 1st. That just means that for the first 3 days, they're not going to be on the schedule, and that's fine. So you can do this retroactively. Typically, you're only, I would recommend only building it for the year, right? Because when you start going into multiple years at a time, it could significantly slow down your system. So this is just going to be something that you have to do once a year, whether it's at the end of the current year or the beginning of the next year. But I would definitely strongly recommend that you only do this for a year at a time. So in terms of a new hire, this would just be whenever they're, whenever they start working to December 31st, 2016. And now under Options, these are some settings we can apply. These two are automatically checked on by default. This first one deletes schedule entries. As you can see from the help text, it's just saying it's going to delete all entries that, whoever we assign to down here is scheduled for. So this is really important when it comes to reassigning someone. So if they're already on the schedule but they're getting reassigned, this means that we want to delete whatever was scheduled for these dates or in between these dates up here. If you uncheck that and say someone is on a rotation, you uncheck that box and put them on a new one, what's going to happen is they're going to now belong to 2 rotations, which we don't want. So this is kind of like overwrite, whatever rotation was scheduled for these dates. This next one, delete days off. If we turn that box on, it will delete time off that was scheduled for these dates that have not been processed through payroll. Also, if you don't, so this is helpful if someone's on, say a Sunday through Thursday rotation, but they get moved to a Monday through Friday rotation. Maybe they're not scheduled to work on those days that they requested off anymore, right? So if I'm working Sunday through Thursday and I request off on a Sunday, but then my rotation gets moved to a Monday through Friday, I no longer need to request that Sunday off anyways, because that's a regular day off for me now. So that's where you can use this box if, someone no longer needs to take those days off anymore because they already have them scheduled off. You can check this box and it will remove any days off put in this date range as long as they have not been processed through payroll. This next one we always want to leave on. It's just going to copy whatever new rotation we put onto someone into their employee profile. So if I just select some random employee profile, we can see that his primary shift is Squad B. So that's just, if you ever want to see what rotation someone's on, you can pull it up in their employee profile under Application. And this box right here is just saying that if we update someone's rotation, that update is going to show on the employee profile. Don't worry about alternate rotations. You're not going to be using them, so just leave that box unchecked. Just ignore it. So now we have our dates put in. We have our options selected. Next, we need to select the employees. Now, I would recommend doing it for a group at a time. That's the quickest way of doing it. If you try and do it for everyone in your department at once, it could take some time to actually save and build. So I would recommend just doing it by groups. So say I just want to get all my Squad A guys done. Click All. And now here they are. Now, these people were already assigned to a rotation, which is what is showing up here. But to add a rotation to someone's name, I could just click either, as long as it's in this row with that person, either in rotation code or rotation description. It doesn't matter as long as one of these two boxes are highlighted. I can click on the row with the rotation I want. I click the green arrow, and now it's moved. You can also just drag and drop if you want. So to kind of give you a better example of that, I just drag and drop that. So it's up to you how you want to do it. Now we have the rotation there. If you have like an early person or a late person, you know, maybe they're working the day shift, but it starts, maybe they're working an hour early and getting out an hour early, you can specify those different start and end times here, and this will apply to any shift currently put in that rotation. So in this case, the rotation is all patrol day shift, so that's fine. But if they start early, we can say, you know, maybe if the shift's from like 8 to 16, but this guy's my early guy, I can say 7 to 15. So now every day that he's scheduled to work patrol day shift, he's going to start an hour earlier than everyone else. If you have a rotation that kind of rotates between shifts, maybe like the first week it's day and then the second week it's night, you cannot use start and end time. This is only for a rotation that has one shift in it. If a rotation has more than one shift, these times will mess some things up because this just gets applied to any shift in this rotation. So while we're doing this, let me unmute the mics. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. So now once we put, you know, our rotations on our employees, we click apply, and this could take, you know, several minutes, because what it's doing is for each person in this list, it's adding, you know, the proper days and rotation to them on the schedule for the entire year. So, you know, it's doing a lot of work. Just, you know, let it load, be patient. If you do, you know, click around and you see that the window says not responding, that's just like a default thing that any Windows program does, not necessarily just VCS, but any Windows program in general. Just because you see not responding, it doesn't mean that you broke it, so don't worry. It's just saying, you know, hey, you know, let me do my thing. It's loading the rotation. So if you click and you see not responding, you don't have to X out of it or anything. Just leave it alone. Once it's done, it'll notify you, save and build finished. You click OK, and then, you know, that's it. So then once you get that, you know, whatever group you were working with done, if these dates, you know, still apply and these still apply, we can just go back to select employees. And you'll notice that everyone who is in this list right here has their boxes checked. Well, now we want to select a new group, so we're going to click None, and that clears it out. And we just go to our next group, All Employees, select and close. If you don't click None before you do that, what's going to happen is those initial people are going to stay on this list, and it's just going to add the new people you selected. So by clicking None, you're kind of wiping out what was there and putting in a new group. So that's important to remember. So that's how we would, you know, put someone on a rotation, you know, if they were a new hire. Now, I also said I'm going to show you how to reassign employees. The easiest way to do it is through this screen. So, say, you know, William is getting reassigned from Squad D to Squad A starting, you know, the first week of August. So he's on the Squad D rotation from, you know, January to December, but he's getting reassigned, say, from, and you see this a lot with like SROs, you know, they're working maybe the school shift from September to June, but then, you know, June, July, August, they're working a regular patrol shift, so you could use this reassignment. In fact, I'll show you how to do that using that example. So maybe, you know, this is the school rotation, right? Let's just pretend this is an SRO rotation. I could say starting in June, maybe June 20th is when school's out, they're back to a regular patrol rotation. I could say from June 20th up and say school starts on, Monday the 5th. I could just say the day before that is the last day of this reassignment. I move him to a regular patrol rotation. And I want to delete schedule entries, meaning it's going to remove anything from June 20th to September 4th and replace it with this new rotation. And I click Save. That's the easiest way to reassign someone. Because we do offer a Reassign an Employee screen. However, if you use this screen, it deletes all days off during that reassignment. Maybe we don't want to delete those days off, so I would recommend just using Add Employee to Existing Rotation and leaving the Delete Days Off button unchecked. If, however, you're okay with reassigning someone and deleting those days off that take place during their reassignment, if we go to Build Schedule, Reassign an Employee, here we select our employee, and then here are all the different things we could reassign them to. If we're reassigning them to a different group for a certain amount of days and a different rotation, so we can select group and rotation. If we're just reassigning someone to a different time, so maybe they're still working the day shift, none of that's changed, but maybe their hours are changed, we can leave all that blank and just change the times. And then down here, we're putting in the date range of that reassignment. So I could say, maybe just for July, for some reason, this guy's getting moved to Squad A. Oops. So just for a month, this guy's going to be moved from, whatever squad he was on, to Squad A, and working a different rotation. And what happens is, once that reassignment is done, it just reverts back to the default rotation he was initially scheduled for. We click Apply, and it reassigns the employee. So does anyone have any questions regarding putting someone on a rotation or reassigning someone? Okay. Well, so that's all I had for you today. So does anyone have any questions regarding anything we went over today? Because that's pretty much all I had to talk to you guys about for this class. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys are muted. All right. Everyone's unmuted. So now if you were talking, I didn't hear you. All right. Well, before I end this class, I do just want to make note that we offer help out sessions throughout the week. And a help out session is good for, say you're working on the system and you're running into a problem, or maybe you forgot how to do something. Pretty much, if you need some one-on-one time, whether it's with me or someone else from VCS, you can sign up for those help out classes, and that's 45 minutes of one-on-one work. So whether we need to walk you through some stuff or you need help with something. Steve, I saw that you raised your hand. Do you have a question? When you say how do you add a profile, like an employee profile? Are you referring to a profile such as like the dashboard profile where we can see the daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly schedules? So that's actually kind of like a class in itself, really. But we do have some time. So before I actually get into that, if anyone has any questions, relating specifically to what we went over in today's class, feel free to ask. If you don't, you're more than welcome to leave, so I can show Steve how to put in the dashboard tiles. All right, so this is kind of getting a little off topic, but we do have the time allotted, so I might as well just show you. So to put in the profile, we have to click Edit Dashboard up here, and then we can put in tabs to kind of specify what each. We can name the tab according to what's going to be in it, right? So as you can see on mine, I have a daily schedule tab, a weekly schedule tab, monthly schedule tab, and so on. So let me remove this, and I'll show you how to do it. All right, so in your case, we click Add Tab. You can name it, Daily. Click OK. Now we get a blank canvas. Now the daily schedule, each tile is kind of like, each tile represents a shift. So we have to put in multiple tiles per shift. So if you're doing a daily schedule, we click that green button, and we get this tile catalog. We select daily schedule. We want to set the timer to a 300-second refresh rate. And then down here, we can only select one shift at a time. So if I want to show the day shift, I check that box. Down here, these are the recommended settings. Show denied time off. Show times off. If you want to show work times, meaning if I take like a partial day, I can see the hours I'm here and the hours I'm not. You can use show work times. We click apply and use, and then it gets added. So we can see right here that it's added, but that's just the day shift. So I can use these dividers right here to kind of split it up. And these buttons with the, we could split it horizontally or vertically. These buttons with the yellow sections in it, that just means that there's a tile with information in it. So it's saying when we split it, if I were to split it horizontally, I want to move the tile with the information in it up top or down below, right or left. And then I just keep repeating this process, daily schedule. Now, maybe I'll select the night shift, 300-second refresh rate. Show work time, show times off, show denied times, apply and use. And you're just going to keep doing this for every shift in your, daily schedule. Weekly and monthly schedules, those are a little bit easier. Let me just remove these tiles. So now you're going to add a new tile. Select weekly schedule, 300-second refresh rate, use timer. Now it's asking us what groups do we want to show. I'm going to click all. Do I want to sort it by name, group, or rotation code? I would recommend doing it by group, putting in the start day of your work week, apply and use. So now when I'm done, I click Save on this main menu right here. I click Exit, and now here's my weekly schedule right here. You're going to repeat that same exact process for monthly schedule as well. I would recommend, having a daily tab, a weekly tab, and a monthly tab. Don't combine them, because then that's going to slow down your system significantly. So that was just kind of like a brief, rundown of how to do that. If you feel like you need more help with that, I would recommend signing up for it. Is basic setup number 4 or 5. Just give me a second to tell you exactly what that class is. So it's basic setup number 4, dashboard setup. That's where we get into, intricate detailing as far as how to set up your dashboard. What I just showed you was kind of a very high level, general way of setting it up just for your schedules. But if you do need more help, I'd recommend signing up for basic setup number 4. All right. So I'll go ahead and end this session.